Hello friends and welcome to my new video. I'll be talking about 10 of my favorite English movies today. Unlike the earlier videos where I had spoken about my 10 favorite thrillers and 10 favorite romantic movies, this time I'll be talking about 10 movies which broadly fall under the category of drama. So, that'll be my list of 10 favorite movies. And as always, most of these movies are not movies which are immensely popular or very well known. Some of them are quiet gems and movies which have been essentially missed by a majority of cine lovers. Some of these, of course, have been also widely acclaimed and have been nominated and won Academy Awards as well. So it's not that they're completely obscure and unknown, but by and large, I think they're movies which have been missed out by the public in general. So let me begin with my first movie, which is a 2007 movie called Meet Bill. It stars Aaron Eckhart, Jessica Alba, and Elizabeth Banks. And it's this simple story about this man called Bill who has a marriage, has a job, has a family, but somehow feels his life is directionless. He feels that he doesn't get the kind of love, the kind of respect that he deserves. And there is a sort of a lull in his life. He finds out that his wife is cheating on him outside their marriage. And in general, he feels that, you know, something is missing, something is not right in his life. And how he goes about bringing a change to his life with the help of this youngster, a teenager, and a young girl. And eventually, it's a very positive, life affirming, warm movie which sort of traces the journey of this man who, somewhere along the line, has lost himself in his life and his self discovery. His self discovery and his regaining of his self worth is what this movie is about. It's a beautiful movie, Meet Bill. In case you haven't seen it, do get hold of the DVD and watch it. You won't regret it. It's a wonderful movie. The next movie I want to talk about is a 2013 film directed by Woody Allen called Blue Jasmine, and it stars Kate Blanchett in the lead role. I think Blue Jasmine is one of Woody Allen's lesser spoken about movies. And it surprises me that it is that way, because it's a beautiful movie. It's a movie which traces the life of this woman played by Kate Blanchett, and it's a breakdown of her marriage. It's a breakdown of her social status, and her inability to adjust in a cruel and new world for her. That's what this movie is about. It's funny, it's witty, it's sad, it's moving. It's just like life itself. It's got the entire bunch of emotions that one associates life with. That's what this movie is about. And the movie is propelled by this powerful and beautiful performance by Kate Blanchett. Do see it if you haven't. As I said, it's one of Woody Allen's lesser discussed works, but it shouldn't be that way. Blue Jasmine is a must watch if you haven't. The next movie is a movie by the immensely talented Jim Jarmusch, and it's called Paterson. It has Adam Driver in the title role of Paterson, and he puts in a fantastic performance as this bus driver who is a happily married bus driver, and he goes about his daily routine, which is very simple and mundane at one level. But he is an extremely sensitive and a keen observer of life. And he writes poetry in his free time. He has this notebook in which he jots down all his poetry. And one day, his notebook gets destroyed. And how he goes about life after that is what this movie is about. It's got a lot of magic. The movie has a lot of magic in it. And it's a wonderful, warm, and beautiful movie. Adam Driver puts in a fabulous performance. And, I think the beauty of Paterson lies in its simplicity. So, in case you haven't seen Paterson, do watch it. You'll love the movie. The next movie is a movie I came across actually by accident. I really didn't know anything about the movie. And after seeing it, I was absolutely bowled over by its simplicity and its charm. And this is a movie called The Bookshop, starring Emily Mortimer and Bill Nighy. It's a 2017 movie, and it's a story of this gutsy widow who comes to this sleepy, small seaside town in England and decides to open a bookshop. And apparently, as we find out in the movie, that it's not a very easy or common thing to do. And she tries to open this bookshop and faces a lot of hurdles and difficulties in her way. And in a lot of ways, this movie is about human resilience and strength as to how she overcomes all those obstacles and hurdles that are brought in her way, and eventually manages to open the bookshop. It's a wonderful movie. Brilliant performance by Emily Mortimer as well as Bill Nighy, who plays this eccentric, reclusive character who also stays in the same town. And he shares a very, very unusual and a very, very moving relationship with the character played by Emily Mortimer. And Bookshop is about human spirit. It's about human spirit and human resilience, as I said. But it's also very charming, very. I think the beauty of Bookshop lies in its simplicity. It's a wonderful story, very simply told, which is very touching and moving. In case you haven't seen it, do see it. The Bookshop. The next movie is a 2011 movie, and although it broadly falls under the category of drama, there is also a lot of comedy and a bit of thrill as well is in it. It's a movie called Thin Ice, starring Greg Kinnear and Alan Arkin, and it's a story about this greedy, unscrupulous insurance salesman played by Greg Kinnear, and how he tries to con an old man, Alan Arkin, out of a violin that he owns. And it's a wonderful movie. You should watch it because it's very intelligent, and there are quite a few twists and turns and surprises in the movie. I really wouldn't want to give away too much of the plot, but it's a movie I think you shouldn't miss. In case you manage to get hold of the DVD, do watch Thin Ice. It's a great movie. The next movie is again from 2011 and is this amazingly intricately layered movie. It's fascinating. It's a movie called The Details, and it has Tobey Maguire and Elizabeth Banks in the lead roles, as well as a host of supporting actors, including Ray Liotta. And it's a fabulous story. It's a story about this man who has a loving wife and a 2-year-old son, and the couple, they're about to have another child, so they decide to extend the house and build a new lawn. And the lawn is infested with raccoons, and he tries his best to get rid of the raccoons. And that triggers a chain of events which is absolutely, absolutely fascinating. And that actually leads the story on. What happens? It's like a sequence of events that follows, which makes the movie so engrossing and so watchable and gripping till it reaches a fantastic climax. So yes, it was one of the surprise films of 2011 for me when I first saw it. A little heard of film, the details, but it's wonderfully fascinating. Do try and see it; you won't regret it. The next movie is the oldest movie in this list of mine. Most of the movies I have spoken about till now, actually all the movies I've spoken about till now, are from this century, from 2000 onwards. This one is over 55 years old. It's from 1966, and it's a film by Ken Loach called Cathy Come Home. It's actually a telefilm which was, I think, broadcast in BBC all those years ago. And the reason for me including this in this list of mine, apart from the fact that it's a wonderful movie, is that it resonates even today. It's a story about the hardships of being a single parent. It's about unemployment. It's about women's rights. It's about child care rights. All issues tackled 50 years ago by Ken Loach, still so relevant in Britain, where this movie is set, and actually the world over. And at some level, it's tragic that not much has changed. I mean, Cathy Come Home has a timeless quality about it, which will make you identify with the movie even today, 55 years after it was first released. But it's a very powerful movie, like most movies by Ken Loach. It is an extremely powerful and hard-hitting movie, touching in parts as well. Do see it if you can. Cathy Come Home. The next movie again is about human relations, and it's a wonderfully warm movie called Bounce. I think it's not much heard of. It stars Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow. It's, I think, from 2000 or 2001, and it's a story of two strangers who meet and sort of eventually develop a relationship. Just the thing is, for one of them, they're not strangers. There is a very peculiar bond that ties these two people together, and one of them is aware of it. Ben Affleck, the character played by Ben Affleck, is aware of it. I really wouldn't give you too much of the story, but it's a wonderful movie. It's one of the underrated gems in this list. I think of most of the movies I've spoken about in this list, this is perhaps the least known. A movie called Bounce from 2000, starring Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow. Do see it if you haven't. You will love it. The next film is perhaps the most well-known movie that I have chosen from this list. It's a 2004 movie called Sideways, starring Paul Giamatti. And I think this movie was quite acclaimed when it released, and it also, I think, won a couple of Oscars. It's a wonderful road movie about these two guys who embark on a 7-day wine tasting trip, and their encounters during those 7 days. It's a sort of, although both the characters are middle aged and obviously going through some sort of midlife crisis, but in a lot of ways it's also a coming of age movie. You know, it's about realizations and resolutions that both these characters are seeking in their life. Paul Giamatti and his friend, both of them go on this road trip because the friend is about to get. He's an over the hill actor who's about to get married. So just before he gets married, he wants this one bachelor trip with his friend Paul Giamatti, who is a writer who's trying to get his book published without much success. He's an English teacher. So these two characters step out on the road on a wine tasting trip, and what follows thereafter is what makes this film up. It's a funny, witty, warm, quite a wonderful movie actually, and as I said, it was quite it got high acclaim when it was released, but somehow I think 15 years or 16 years down the line, somewhere it's forgotten. I think you need to see Sideways to remember how brilliant this movie is. Do watch Sideways. The last movie again is a huge favorite. It's a movie called On Chesil Beach, starring the immensely talented Saoirse Ronan and Samuel West, Emily Watson. It's got a good cast. Fantastic performance by Saoirse Ronan, and it's about this couple who meet and fall in love in the 60s. This guy who's he's a lawyer, I think, and he's a huge rock and roll fan. And this girl who plays violin in a string quartet. And the two of them meet and fall in love, and they marry, and they are unable to consummate their marriage, and that leads to a lot of stress, a lot of tension between the couple, and they eventually decide to part ways. And years later, the guy, he now has his own record shop, and he meets this girl who he realizes is the daughter of his ex-wife, and through her he tries to trace his ex-wife, and he finds her, and the movie ends on a beautiful note. But it's essentially a movie about human relationships and failed relationships, and it's beautifully moving and touching. On Chesil Beach, again, a quiet movie, an underrated movie, not known or spoken about as much as I think it should be. It's a beautiful movie. So these were my 10 movies, essentially dramas, as I said earlier, and mostly lesser known, not widely discussed. I think except Sideways, most of the other movies are relatively obscure. After my earlier videos, I've got quite a few comments asking me where we can find most of these movies. Now, unfortunately, I don't have clear-cut answers to where we can find. Most of the movies that I talk about are from my personal DVD collection. and I have collected these movies from mostly online, from Amazon India, Amazon UK, Amazon US, these three being the prime sources. So I could only recommend that you try the various Amazons to see if you can still get these movies or not. Some of these movies are also available on YouTube, and for those of you who are well versed with online streaming or online viewing, I'm sure there are quite a few sites online where you can see some of these movies. But beyond that, I won't be able to give much information because, as I said, these are all my personal DVDs, which I have purchased online mainly. So, for me, the best bet would still be to look for these movies online uh, and try your luck. Some of these you will get. There are a few which may now not be available and out of stock, but that's about it. Anyway, these were my 10 favorite dramas that I discussed today. Until next time, bye for now.